It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this. I'm Jeff Grubb. I write for GamesBeat.com. I also run Jeff Grubb's Game Mess on Twitter. That's what this show is about. It's the Jeff Grubb's Game Mess Show Live. I don't think that's actually what I named it, but who can keep track anymore, honestly? Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We're doing this live on Twitch. You can also watch it later on YouTube. And if you're doing that, please feel free to leave a question. I'm going to try to take a question or two each week from the comments, and I'll answer it on the following show. I think the idea is to do these sort of broadcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll have to see how that works. My schedule is very fluid. I gotta work out and stuff. No, it's just the kids. The kids are always running around. You saw in the last video, if you watched that, the kids were everywhere. Thank you for all the nice comments about that, by the way, about all the kids kind of messing everything up. People seem to think that was just okay. I'm always so self-conscious about it. All right, I did say that you're busy and we should just do this, so let's hop into it. I'll be looking for questions from the chat here in a little bit, and like I said, I have a question from YouTube I'll answer or address. I don't have answers. All right, let's do this. So we got the list here. Obviously, the big news today is the Nintendo Indie World Showcase, and I guess I'll talk about it from last week. I put a Nintendo wild card in there. See, I was hearing there was a Nintendo Indie World Showcase, and then there would also be something else. So when I put wildcard in there, it's like I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I know something's happening soon, and maybe it's this other thing that I'm hearing about. It turned out that day, later that night, Nintendo posted on Twitter that they were doing the Pac-Man 99, and that was definitely one of the wildcards I had heard about. But it was like, yeah, I know they're going to replace Super Mario 35 with something. That one just seems so on the okay. No, that's what they did. They did that. But now we also have the Nintendo Indie World Showcase, which is not a surprise, not really a wild card, not really something that it's something you could have easily predicted because they normally do an indie showcase around this time of year. They do it usually lined up with the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. That didn't happen last year, so things got a little bit, or it did happen last year. That's right. It was right before the pandemic, and so that was last year when I said there was going to be an Indie World Showcase and then a direct. That's right around the time when I started getting a bunch of followers. Maybe a lot of you started following me around that time. Turned out both of those worked out. This year, couldn't pin down a date, but now, hey, we don't have to wait much longer. It's happening tomorrow. What can we talk about in terms of what to expect from this? I have hopes. I have dreams. I hope we hear about Sports Story. I could very much go for one of those kinds of sports, non-traditional role-playing games right now. I would be very into that. Also, Silk Song. I know a lot of people want to hear about that. I don't know. Let's hope. We've had multiple of these Indie World Showcases now. We've had two, I think. I can't remember exactly. But then they've had other opportunities to talk about indie games as well. But since like March last year, and people, every time one of these things come up, people are saying, hey, this is where we're going to hear about Silk Song. Hey, this is where we're going to hear about Sports Story. And instead, we get things like Exit the Gungeon, which a lot of people are looking forward to, but it's not like the game people were hollering for before the event. And then what was the last one? You know what? I have it right here. Let me look. Oh yeah, that's right. They added Among Us and stuff like that, and the Spelunky 2, which I think is still coming to Switch. I don't know if that's coming to Switch yet. My big hope would be for Sports Story. My other hope, I suppose, would be that Nintendo continues to do the indie partnerships it's done that got us Cadence of Hyrule. Someone was in my Discord, which you can join, by the way. I should put a link. The link should be on Twitch. I don't remember if I ever updated it, but you can find it on my bio on Twitter. You could join us. Someone there was talking about, that Cadence of Hyrule, that was great. I hope we get something else like that. I also hope we get something else like that. Doesn't necessarily have to be Zelda. Could be anything. I still can't get Mike Minotti, my coworker from GamesBeat, his idea about a Mario and Luigi or Wario and Waluigi 4-player beat 'em up, like in the style of the Mario and Luigi games, and how much fun they could have with something like that. And there's a lot of good indie studios out there doing a lot of good beat 'em ups. Wouldn't that be fantastic if they did something like that? That would just be, obviously this is just this beyond speculation. This is like dreamcasting. It's a dream booking, whatever they call it in wrestling. Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about some stuff and here I'll take some questions. If you have any ideas about what you hope to see there, we'll talk about it in the chat here in a little bit. Resident Evil Showcase, still, I think we got the date now, April 15th. We didn't have the date last time. It's happening April 15th. So this week, and they keep saying things like it will have, Resident Evil Village, of course, that's the big game that's coming out. But then they keep saying things like they're promising a few other surprises. And Typically when a company does one of these showcases, they try to manage expectations. They try to lull you into a sense of like, okay, it's going to be cool, but is it going to be the biggest thing in the world? And no, it's not. Don't worry. Here's what we're going to talk about. Maybe there'll be something else, but don't get your hopes up. Capcom hasn't said anything about that. So if you want to get wild with speculation about this is where we're going to see Resident Evil 4 remake, I am totally right there with you. I'm totally ready to be like, yeah, this is where we're going to see Resident Evil 4 remake. But I don't know that for sure. If I were Capcom and I weren't showing it, I wouldn't say things like a few other surprises. All right, let's take a look here. What else do we have? The last little thing here, Flying Wild Hog and Jagex. Last time I had it, they're going to have a new game announcement. I think they said a little bit more about it. It's going to be a sci-fi MMO, and they're going to talk about it on May 11th. This is from the RuneScape company. I think RuneScape is just big enough in a weird way where I put it on this list, but I almost took it off the list. But you know what? I put it here. We talked about it. I might take it off the list for the next time we do a show. And then we had a few other things happen that I guess that Ace Attorney event came and went, and I don't know if there was any news, Mike. I'm sorry about that. So maybe there was, and I just missed it. So sorry though. Hopefully there's still news to come about that. Maybe that's at the Resident Evil showcase. Maybe that's where they're going to talk about it. Okay, so not much else to talk about in the near future. I guess we could touch on like where E3 is at a little bit, since last week it was mostly kind of Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Ubisoft, Take-Two, WB, Konami, and Coke will have something as part of E3. I still maintain that they are doing their things, and E3 it has asked to like slap the E3 logo on it and like make it part of something else. But all of these things probably would have happened at that time anyhow, and I'm very skeptical that any of those companies are paying the $100,000 to $300,000 that the ESA was asking for. But we don't know exactly how all that went down. I will say that last week, I talked a little bit about, to reiterate, Xbox and Bethesda. It's separate, but they'll be back to back. It'll be packaged as one event. That's still the case as far as I'm aware. And then Nintendo, Doug Bowser came out and said we are excited to continue to participate in E3, and made it very much sound like they will be doing a full Nintendo Direct style E3 showcase, which I think, I was saying that last week. I think that's still obviously going to be the case. It's where we should hear about a lot of stuff. Now, the Switch Pro and Breath of the Wild 2, I'm still not sure if they're going to be. I mean, Breath of the Wild 2 better be there, I guess. Man, I'll be very disappointed. They're going to have to talk about Breath of the Wild 2 and not talk about the Switch Pro if they're not going to show the Switch Pro at this event, which I think is very unlikely because they're going to want to hold off on that until it's about 2 months out. And this is something we talked about in the past as well. Okay. Well, you know what? Is that a new one too? PC Gaming Show and Future Games Show. So they've done those things. We just had a Future Games Show. They do a PC Gaming Show every E3. We're gonna get more of those. These events, I'm like wondering what the state of these events are. We're getting more and more of them, and I'm not sure if their impact is growing. I actually did a podcast with the editor in chief of PC Gamer Magazine, who runs the PC Gaming Show, on my How Games Make Money podcast. And he said, like, it works for us. It works for our partners, the people that, works for the people that like showcasing the thing. So if it's working for everyone involved, more power to them. But from looking at it from the outside, you're always wondering, like, are they getting enough viewers? Like, is this audience big enough? Is it enough to sustain itself? But they've been doing it for years and years now. So I suppose it probably is. Okay. That does it for my update. Let's go ahead. We're going to take some questions from the chat. First, though, I want to answer this question from YouTube. Left a comment last week. So this one's from Jared Helder. With the return of Mario sports games and Nintendo acquiring Next Level Games, what do you think the possibility of a Mario Strikers game coming to the Switch is? I think it's pretty good. I think it's Mario Strikers is like a cult classic at this point almost, as far in terms of a game that has Mario in the title. I know it's a really well-liked, well-beloved Mario sports game. I like it. I go back and play it on GameCube quite frequently. It was on GameCube. I played on Dolphin. I'll just be real. I played on Dolphin, so that's where I go back and play it, and it's still fun today. And I do want, like, Next Level's got to make another Luigi's Mansion, but are they going to make another Luigi's Mansion this generation? Unlikely. We see that Nintendo's kind of past that. They're not doing sequels to big selling games on the same platform. They do one big one, sell the entire generation for $60, and then they have those developers go and do something else. That continues to be the reason why I am skeptical of Mario Kart 9. Me and Mike talked about this on the GameSpeak Decides podcast, I think this last week. So, or if not, it was the week before, but we both are skeptical of that just because opportunity costs. I think Mario Strikers is a good fit for them, but I wonder if it's like, if they would want to try something new and like get something new under their belt. If they don't do that, I hope they do Punch Out. I think Next Level did that Wii Punch Out, and I was a big fan of that. Okay, so let's see here. Quickly, thank you for I'm sorry. Thank you for the subscriptions from Frank the Streamer, the Cronius, and Kirks. Good looking out, guys. I appreciate that. Okay, chat. What do you got for me? We got some questions. We'll do a few questions, and then we'll wrap this up for the YouTube people, and I'll answer a few more questions, and then go eat my lunch. All right. So it helps if you at Jeff Grubb if you have a question. It highlights it in the OBS here. From IKGH1223, can we expect any other big games besides Breath of the Wild 2 and Pokemon from Nintendo this year? I mean, those games are like some of the biggest games in the world, right? And so when you say, can we expect big games other than those two? And if that's what you consider to be a big game, like what else is there? There's Mario. I suppose Metroid Prime 4 would be that at this case. At this point, and I don't think Metroid Prime 4 is this year. I think it's pretty safe to say that. I would be very surprised. That'd be very shocking. So I'll say no, but it doesn't mean they won't have, cap or lowercase b big games. They might have some stuff to fill it in there. I'm not sure exactly what, but they should be at a point where they're ready to reload relatively soon from a lot of their developers. I think there's a chance that we start getting some other of that Metroid stuff. I mean, there's always been that chance. That Metroid Prime trilogy we've said over and over is pretty much done. They're just waiting on it. But that's not really a big game, but maybe like a 2D Metroid to fill in the gap between Metroid Prime 4 and today. From that team that did the Metroid Prime game or the Metroid 2D game on 3DS. I think that's possible. It could look really good on the Switch. But I don't know. I would say yes. Breath of the Wild 2 and Pokemon will probably be the two biggest games, and then there will be some smaller stuff to fill in the gaps in the months between. All right. Ivan the Hero says, "What's up with Sonic?" I think if we're gonna hear rumors about a Sonic Colors update or remaster, remake, whatever it is, to me it's like, who would make that up? If it's not real. I mean, if it's not real, okay, whatever. Like. But it's so like banal that if you were trying to make your fake leak sound realistic, you would add something else to it. You wouldn't just say that because who would care? And I guess we're talking about it, so we care. But other than that, I don't know what's up with Sonic. I think we should have had more games by now, right? They were supposed to do stuff about, like all through last year, and we haven't heard much since. So I don't know. I think we should hear soon, though. Would be my guess. This is from Riser777. What do you know about the rumored Xbox and Nintendo collaboration? Is it xCloud on Switch? This is a good question. My very limited understanding of this is that if it is, I don't know if it's xCloud on Switch. If xCloud's going to go to other service or other platforms, other consoles, I mean, it's going to have to get stripped down and just be Microsoft games, right? That the Nintendo's not going to let you subscribe to other publishers' games on a different service than the one they run on their console. Same with Sony. And I think that's probably still pretty far away from Microsoft, making that work and figuring that out and making those deals. Those conversations likely could happen, but they'll take years. My guess is that it's a broader sort of thing where it's about publishing arrangements and maybe something along the lines of Nintendo does want to do more stuff in the cloud, not necessarily bring xCloud to the Switch, but let's partner with Microsoft for Azure in the same way that Sony partnered with Microsoft, and then we could build on top of that. And if we need to collaborate, if Nintendo has a good relationship with publishing in one region, maybe Nintendo can help out with that, and Microsoft can help out, and vice versa. Basically like a platform level deal, and not necessarily like a specific services deal or a specific content deal. That would be my guess. All right, let's see. From Excelsi, Sky, I can't say it. Do you think Ubisoft will keep their Ubisoft Forward style event for E3, or they'll come back with the big stage? You mean like forever going forward, or just for this E3? I think for this E3, I bet most of these companies keep the style that they establish in this year. I think this style is going to work in a number of different like formats. You can do this forever. And so it's agile. If something does go wrong in the future, well, you still have this group inside your company that is capable of putting together video events, and you don't have to rely on like venues that you need to be open and deals that you have to make with them years in advance or whatever. You could just make this happen inside of your company with the people you already have on staff, and that's very attractive to companies. They want to be able to handle these things in a very agile way. So I think that once a company sets that stuff up, the likelihood of moving backward from that or to set it aside or to like disband the group that is handling these things is unlikely. But you never know. Ubisoft might have its reasons for wanting to do in-person events. Like if this was like happening during the Vivendi thing, they would want to be putting on airs and putting on a show and saying, we are a big important company that gets people to pack like an audience, an auditorium, and they want to see what we have. And our investors should know that. That's how much we're worth. And that's why Vivendi can't even afford us. That sort of situation, if that was happening, maybe they'd go back to doing in-person events. But the way they are right now, they're probably looking and saying, let's save some money instead. That makes more sense. From the Wicked Player 94, what do you think about the heavily speculated Persona 5 Royale PC port? I mean, it seems like more is happening with Persona. I don't know. Persona 4 Golden did eventually go to PC, and I would see no reason why Persona 5 wouldn't get the same treatment eventually. Unless, I doubt so. Like, if Sony does have a deal, we never know. We don't know what the deal is like between Atlas and Sega and then Sony, and why these games seem to only come to PlayStation consoles. But even if it does have a deal, we've seen that the game can come to PC, even if it's years and years and years later. So I would assume that this game would have every possibility to come to PC. I think it's likely. I think Sega is behind the ball, and they're trying to catch up on making money from Persona, like getting all the value out of Persona that's possible to get. And I wouldn't be surprised if starting very soon we see them get way more aggressive with ways to make money. We saw today like Perfect World, that one of the giant publishers in China that's not Tencent is making a Persona X mobile game. So they are looking for more ways to make more money from that franchise, and PC is obviously going to be a part of that after the way Persona 4 Golden sold. Let's see. From Nick Turbo, will we get more Sonic this year besides Colors? I don't know. I would imagine a Mania 2 should be ready by now, but who knows how Sega has treated that game or not. You know what? Let me actually just bring up the chat. There we go. All right. Let's do a few more questions. Anything from Bandai from Totally Not Jarrett? Not that I'm aware of. I haven't heard anything. I've asked them what they're going to do, what Bandai Namco Next is. They didn't get back to me, probably for obvious reasons. But yeah, so I don't know. From It's Just Kevin 93, question about E3. Should we keep our expectations in check for Konami's involvement? Yes, because it's Konami. I think it's okay to get a little bit excited, but if it comes through and it's just like, it's probably going to be another disappointment, honestly. So yeah, maybe keep it in check. It's always safe to keep it in check. It's Konami. And what have we gotten from them recently? Last year they were at E3, right? And what did they bring? They brought that really bad Contra hardcore game, right? So is that what they're going to do again? And how awful would that be? That'd be pretty bad. My understanding is that they've wanted to shift away from that and do better going forward. But being at E3 isn't necessarily indicative of that shift. If they were at E3 last year and they're at E3 this year, nothing's really changed there. I guess they're still participating with the ESA. That shows some level of wanting to be involved and having some faith, I guess, in what your in your prospects. But it also could just show that they might be on autopilot and they're just doing the same thing this year that they did last year because they already had the budget scoped out for it. So I would keep your expectations in check for Konami because it's Konami, and let them surprise us. It would be really nice if they surprised us. I'm really pulling for just do Castlevania, the Metroidvania style collection on Switch, and I'll be happy. Oh, okay. Mogos and East Govna, thank you for the subscriptions, y'all. That was, again, very nice. It means a lot. From R. Phelps, is it safe to assume that we will have several gameplay showcases or Xbox games that had teaser trailers last year? Okay, so I think, do I think we'll get gameplay showcases of Xbox games that had teaser trailers last year? Okay, I got you. Yes and no. I think we might get more teasers for many of those games. I think we might not hear about many of those games at this E3. I think they'll try to focus on what they have for this year. And then if they have a game that has seen significant updates and improvements since the last time they showed it, they might talk about that in a teaser. Now, you got to, like, we've heard about Perfect Dark. We've heard about Avowed. Things like that. These games are still very far off, I think. We're talking 2023 timeframe probably for most of these games at the earliest. And while I would love to have them give us another update and hype up those games even more at this E3, I imagine that they are going to want to instead focus on is, here's Halo, here's whatever other game we have coming out later this year, which I still think is, and this is me thinking, is Forza Horizon 5. And then now let's, and if there are other surprises, maybe. And now here's Bethesda, and to transition to Bethesda, let's go with Starfield, something like that. And if Starfield is soon, which, you know, I'm pretty sure that they, like I said many times, they want to have Starfield in the showcase. Whether or not it'll make it or not is still up for debate. But I think, but you know, if that's their show, I think you know, they want to talk about games that they could sell you very soon, and they obviously still want you to be excited about the Xbox and its future. So maybe they talk about some of these other things in teasers, but like gameplay showcases for games that were teased last year, in many cases, probably not ready for gameplay showcases, especially in a world where they don't have to get the floor demo ready, right? So you know, when they were doing E3, these companies would have to crunch and get show floor demos ready, so that when I go for my meeting and they're going to show me a game, they can at least have someone on a controller there playing it in front of me if I'm not touching it myself. And those are vertical slices, and they are specifically made for E3. They take a lot of work, and it's a lot of time, and it's expensive. And if they're not having a physical E3 and they don't have to do that this year, maybe they don't necessarily get those games into a state where they'd be very easy to show off as gameplay. This is me just like coming up with hypothetical situations, but I think that seems reasonable to me. All right, scrolling down, I got it looks like a bunch more questions. Let's do one more for YouTube, and then I'm going to end the video, and then we'll continue on Twitch for a little bit until the half an hour time. It's 12:22 right now. From the Cornballer, can you comment on the grumbling about Nintendo Xbox collaboration? Already talked about that a little bit. Let's see. Crypto Zookeeper, have you heard any Bayonetta news? No. These are some quick ones. From Juve Clues, it may be too early, but any update on Kojima? Any truth to the Konami licensing rumors? I think I said it in the podcast last week or somewhere else, not in the story because it was I got a little bit of an update. The deal went to the lawyers, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, oh, it went to the lawyers, so they're just like making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted or whatever. Like, no, it could very well still go back to the negotiation table, and things could still change, and they could still be looking for leverage here or there. But it's still somewhat indicative. Like, okay, it did get to a state where like lawyers are looking over it and making sure that everything like is going to be okay for them in terms of like, is this an okay contract? And obviously many stipulations and demands and whatever have already been made in the first place to get to this point. But I just want to make sure people understand it doesn't necessarily mean like they're just waiting for people to sign. That's not what I'm saying when I say that. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I see a bunch more questions. I'll get you guys, everyone on Twitch. Not everyone. There's a lot. but I'll get to many of them. But let's say goodbye to YouTube. If you want to say goodbye to YouTube in the chat right now, it'd be perfect time. Thanks for watching YouTube. You know, like I said, get down there into the comments, ask questions. I'll try to pick one or two each week to address on the show whenever I do that. I think I'm going to do the next show on Thursday. No promises. I'm still trying to figure out how the schedule is going to work for this sort of thing. It's been going pretty good so far. There's usually enough to talk about in these like short bursts, and chat always helps by asking a lot of questions. Okay, YouTube, check out the description for Discord. Join the Discord, and in there you could find out ways to join the Patreon, which gets you secret channels inside the Discord and just supports this stuff for me, and I really appreciate it. All right, catch you guys next time.